I know this starts with a book, and I want to know, connection-wise, I mean, this story's so wild and out there. What was the element where you decided we can do something with this? We can take this to another level. We can put this on screen. When did you realize that part?
I think when you're reading the book, it really is something, at least when I was reading the book, that I could certainly visualize. And so it became very clear to me really early on after reading the book that it was a film and that it could be an interesting documentary. What I think my biggest concern was that it happened 40 years ago, and I wanted it to be something more than just talking heads. And so figuring out what that was going to be and how we were going to do something that was more than talking heads was interesting. And so it also happened very early on that I decided to shoot the recreations on Super 8 film, which was, I think, one of the better decisions I could have made. I mean, I look back at it and I go, well, I could have shot it with my HD camera and in post sort of degraded it, but I love film. I work as a cinematographer. I feel that the quality of that 8mm film really helped propel us back and take us back to the 1970s.
You know, when we were talking on the red carpet yesterday, I brought up the films that I thought were like Imposter, and you guys brought up a lot of great films. That the horror element of documentary is something new, not horror, suspense. Mm-hmm. As a cinematographer, how much fun is it to see that unravel, and utilizing Super 8 like that helps so much with the feel of the film. It feels like we're there, which is spooky in very much so many ways, just what we know what the story's unraveling as. That's got to be fascinating.
It's fascinating, and I actually feel that documentaries there's just so much creative freedom in documentaries, and it really is sort of the Wild West of filmmaking, I think, because while there are maybe certain rules of how to make a documentary film, there's no one way to do it. You don't go in and approach something like master over single. You know, you can do things in such a different and unique way, and you can bring so many different elements into it. You can bring documents into it, and we have so many audio recordings in our film, and Super 8, and all these different elements that might be a little more challenging in a classic sort of scripted film. And so I do think that the documentary gives us a great medium to be able to explore really creative ways of storytelling, and that's something that I love as both a director and a cinematographer, and really trying to find ways to be authentic to the story and to authentically represent what the 70s were like and what this story is.
As far as the family themselves, how much connection did you get with the family, with her herself, and how, I mean, I know we see it in the film, but as you and Stephanie and the whole team, how involved were you with that side of things, behind the scenes, just getting to know their side of it and the story behind it?
Very involved. The whole team really got to know the family in a very intimate, very personal way. And I don't know that we would have been able to get the interviews that we got had we not done that. And I also feel the fact that we were 3 women coming in to this family, which is a very feminine family. It's 3 sisters, a mom, and a dad. And so Bob has always lived with 4 women surrounding him. And we came in and we ate dinner with them. We talked to them. We did dishes afterwards. We played with grandchildren. We were sitting on floors. Bob would be playing the piano. We would be talking to Marianne in the kitchen and baking cookies. And this was all part of just getting to know them and having them feel safe and comfortable with us. And I really feel like if we had been 3 men walking in to the same situation, it would have been a little bit different. And so I credit a lot of the fact that we were able to get the interviews we did from it being a female filmmaking team.
You guys used Kickstarter for this program.
We did.
How did that help impact the start of it? And then once from there, what was the steps that made it possible? I mean, it took about 3 years to get prepped and ready to do this.
Yeah, so the whole process took a fair amount of time, and we'd done sort of a little friends and family fundraiser at the beginning to make a little bit of money to go out and do interviews with the family. And so we had our initial interviews with the family in the first year. And we also were lucky enough to get FBI documents and court transcripts in that first year. So we had a lot of information from what had happened. And so we were able to put together a timeline. And then at that point, it became clear that we really needed to get more interviews because we were able to look at some of the documents, and so we needed to raise more money, and we went with Kickstarter because we knew we needed to get quite a bit. We knew that fundraising is just such a hard, challenging, frustrating thing to do because all we want to be doing really is being creative and making the film, and we just needed to be able to put money towards an editor who could work on it full time. And that's where the majority of our Kickstarter funds went, was to the editing and finishing the film. But it was a 4-year process, and we would shoot and we would edit and we would shoot and we would edit. And so there was a lot of going back and forth, and then we'd get some money and we'd shoot some more recreations, and we had to build sets, we had to buy wardrobe, we had to do all of that. So it was a long process, but we were kind of doing a little bit of everything throughout the entire, well, especially through the last 2 or 3 years.
Can you talk a bit about your team that worked with you on this? And in particular, one of the things I noticed in the film that I really loved was the music, the composition behind it. I know you work with Carl on a few films before and have known him for years. So Can you talk a bit about your team?
Yes. So Carl Dante is the composer, and he is a master and a genius. Something that I'm so amazed by is that he was able to compose that score in a week, which is mind-blowing. But part of the reason I think he was able to compose in a week is that we had been talking for 2 years about the film, and he had 2 years prior to doing the composing, or maybe even longer than that, I asked him if he could put something together that we could use, like themes. We had like an FBI theme, and he came up with a Jan theme. And so we knew that piano would be involved with Jan, and so he came up with these themes, and so we were able to use a lot of the themes that he used as temp music while we were cutting the film together, which was amazing. And if you can find a composer who will do that for you, it's such a great way to work. And Carl has always wanted to come on early in the process and be a part of it. And so I'd talk to him, and I'd send him cuts over the course of when we'd have different cuts together. So it was, I don't want to say it was easy for him to do it in a week. He was composing, and he was laying things down, and he was mixing probably for 20 hours a day. But he had the film in his bones at that point. He knew what these people sounded like, and he knew what I was going for, and he nailed it. There were, he'd send me the different compositions for the different reels, and I would have a couple of changes. But for the most part, there was very little work to do with the composition of the music. And James Cood, he and I met on this film, and I was looking for an editor. I'd had a couple people editing before, and just the nature of editing, they had gotten other jobs and needed to move on to those. And I met Jim, and he just came on, and he was such a partner. He was such a force. He has impeccable storytelling abilities. Structurally, he came in and really sort of was able to put things together. From the very beginning, I always said that I didn't want it to be just this linear film, and people would watch it and they'd say, "Are you sure you don't want to tell it just linearly?" And I said, "No, I want to unpack it. I want you to find out what happens, and I want you to be able to unpack how this actually happened." And he was on board with that. He thought it was the strongest way to tell it, and we would have a lot of discussions about what worked and what didn't work, and it was just such a great partnership working with him, and he really brought so much of the story forward. But it really has been, the two producers and I, Stephanie Toby and Emily Kincaid, they've been with this, especially Stephanie, from the beginning, and Emily came on a little bit later, but they've both been such an incredible, amazing force in getting this story out there, and it's always been our main goal is really to start the conversation, and I feel like that's what this film is doing.
You guys have traveled the festival circuit for quite a while now, obviously starting in main doc fests. Can you talk about bringing it to Oxford? Why here? And just what's it mean to bring it to this festival in particular?
Yeah, we've had incredible success with this festival, with this film in festivals in the South, which was a little surprising to me. I mean, I wasn't sure how it would go in the South, but it's been incredible, and people want to talk about this. And that's what's sort of inspiring to me and also a little bit disheartening to me, because I feel like nobody feels like it's okay to talk about. And that's part of what we love, is to be able to take it to audiences, watch it with audiences, and then talk with audiences about it, about issues they had with it, people they blame, people they don't blame. And we come out and we hear all these different perspectives from people on what their takeaways are and how they feel about certain people, and that's been amazing. And for Oxford in particular, I'm super excited. We haven't had a screening yet, but I'm really excited. I'm always excited for the Q&As, but in Oxford in particular, I think that it feels like such an open community here. It feels like people are really interested in seeing this film, and I think people are going to be really excited to talk about it.
I definitely think they will too. I was wanting to talk to someone once I watched it. I had to watch it on my computer, and I was like, ugh, this is so tough. I've got to ask, as far as, I know the distribution question is always a terrible question, but you brought up last night Wormwood, which is on Netflix. In today's world, I think there's more opportunity for documentaries. Can you talk a bit about where you hope this will be seen? Maybe not any specifics, but how the world is very much changing for how we can see documentaries.
Yeah, I do. I'm super excited about where documentaries are right now. I feel like there has been this renaissance of documentaries, and it's very exciting. And I credit a lot of that to Netflix, really. I mean, they have made documentaries available, and you can just be looking at one documentary and then it shows you things that are similar to it that you may want to see. And I think with Making a Murderer and The Jinx on HBO and these kind of documentaries that are becoming more mainstream and people are watching them, I think that's been great for the documentary field. And so I think it would be great. Look, I love showing the documentary in theaters to the public. Realistically, festivals are probably going to be the main place where that happens. I don't think documentaries like this do that much in a theatrical representation, in the real world out there. But I do feel like on some sort of platform like Netflix or Amazon, it would be amazing. I also think a network showing would be fantastic too, because I feel this film is for a generation, a little bit of an older generation as well. I think younger people will certainly watch it and like it, enjoy it. I don't know if that's the right word, but be interested in it. But I do feel that it's also a generational thing, and that some people who don't use Netflix so much, who still have their cable subscriptions, that it would be great if we could get it onto a network and have it available for those people.
On your website, there's a mission part of this film. Can you talk to me about having a film that has a point, that's trying to get people's eyes to open, even maybe if it is an older generation? Can you talk to that part of it? I think that is a real special part of the film.
Yeah, I mean, this film opened my eyes to how something like this can happen, and it has always been our mission to start the conversation and to talk about the hard things. And I feel like almost any documentary filmmaker will tell you that their hope with a film that they've worked on for 4 or 5 or 6 years is to change the world. And that's what we hope to do too. And if we can save a little girl or a little boy or a family from going through a situation like this, then it's worth it. And I hope that people watch this and maybe can say, hang on a second, he's acting just like my neighbor's acting. And maybe I need to put a stop to this. Maybe I need to stop my neighbor from coming over so much, or seeing it with somebody else. And instead of putting the blinders on, which we all do because we just don't want to believe the truth, that maybe we can just open up those blinders and save a family.
Skye, where can we follow this film, the website, and any other information you want to give to us?
Yes, we would love for anybody to come and sign up for our mailing list on ForeverBDoc. That's ForeverBDoc.com, and shoot us an email. Let us know what's going on. Tell us your story. Come on our mailing list. We'll let you know what's happening in terms of distribution, how you can see the movie. We've got a list of festivals on there now. We've got some more that we haven't been able to announce yet, but we'll be traveling around the country for at least through May, and we want to get people watching the movie.
And I think we'll get this up before your next stop. You go up Big Skye, right?
Yeah.
That'll be fun. That's different.
It's different, yeah. Yeah, Big Skye will be a lot of fun. We're really excited about it.
Very cool. Thanks, Skye, for everything, and thanks for bringing the film here.
Yes.
It was one of my favorites of the festival.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for watching.